Deponia Doomsday, the latest point-and-click adventure from the presses of Daedalic Entertainment. It's the fourth installment in a series that technically already concluded. That's why I was surprised when I read that there was going to be another game, but it's not why I was immediately excited. I played the previous Deponia games and absolutely loved them. Since I was playing the game anyway and there didn't seem to be much coverage of it out there, at least not in English, I decided to review it. I want to start off by talking about the story, because I feel it's the most integral part of most point-and-click games, certainly this game. If you've never heard of Deponia before, a review of this game alone is not going to be of much use to you, so I'll do my best to sum up the premise in a couple of sentences. You play as Rufus, an egotistical but substantially likable goofball who tends to break everything he touches but nevertheless fancies himself an inventor. He lives on, you guessed it, Deponia, a planet overrun by scrap and debris, and wants nothing more than to escape to a paradise known as Elysium that conveniently orbits the planet. He meets a bunch of, let's say, curious characters, among them an Elysian woman named Goal. No, seriously, that's what they chose to call her. And together they uncover a plot to destroy Deponia and do their best to thwart it. The last game received criticism about the way it ended the trilogy, and Daedalic decided to give people a slightly different spin on the outcome with this one. In fact, the entire point of the game is to rewrite the ending through time travel. If you break it down, most of the game consists of several time loops that you're trying to break out of. You'd think this would make the game repetitive or hamper the storytelling, but the actual amount of stuff you have to do more than once is kept to a minimum, and the changes you make in each timeline make enough of a dent for the next time around to be entirely different. I concede that the game has a distinct problem with focus. You're thrown around so much from place to place and from timeline to timeline that it becomes dauntingly difficult to keep track of everything that has happened and everything that will happen based on your actions. This is something most pieces of fiction related to time travel struggle with, though, because it's by nature not commensurate with the way we think on a daily basis. I don't know that Deponia Doomsday handles this better in any noteworthy capacity, but having gone over the ending a few times now, I can at least retrace the steps enough in my mind for it to make sense why things turned out the way they did. I'm actually not going to discuss the ending any further than that, since I feel it's, in this case, impossible to do without indicating what happens. The writing in this game is superb in my opinion. It's hardly ever serious, but it interweaves the humor with the dialogue in a way that's very sympathetic to me.
I'm researching anomalies in the fourth axis of space-time.
Really? Then you can probably answer a time-related question for me.
Very possibly.
When, dear Mr. McComicon?
Yes? When?
When did I ask you for your life story?
I played through most of the game in German, because it also happens to be the dev's native language, and I wanted to experience the original writing, though I did switch to English for a few hours just to make sure the translation was up to snuff. I'll go into localization a little more when I talk about the voice acting and the presentation, but for now I'll just say some things work a little better in the German version than in the English one, and vice versa, which is to be expected. Calling the love interest Goal, for instance, might fall flat more easily with an English-speaking audience. For the most part, I think one is not strictly better than the other, though, and the devs certainly did a good job with the translation. Many of the characters you meet have already been established in the previous games, so character development is a little sparse, but in exchange you get a cast of characters with a largely existing dynamic who are thrown into entirely new situations, which I found to be more than compelling enough. While researching the other Deponia games, I noticed quite a bit of negativity about the fact that the series is frequently politically incorrect, and I feel I should address those concerns. I indirectly faulted a game not that long ago for having a juvenile sense of humor, by saying it's not usually something I enjoy, and I want to be consistent here, so let me explain why I personally think this game gets away with it. Rufus is incredibly offensive to everyone in this entire game. He's sexist, he has his fair share of demeaning opinions about minorities, and he does some mean-spirited things during the course of the game. But I never felt that the offensiveness was the thing that was supposed to elicit the laugh. It's how far over the line Rufus goes. He's as close to an anti-hero as you could possibly get, and the game, in some respects, is about how someone who wrongs so many people can end up putting the greater goal first. No pun intended. The puzzles are logical for the most part and take a bit of figuring out, which is what I expect from point and clicks, but some of them are not straightforward at all. This way I felt like I got through most of the puzzles in a fair amount of time, but got stuck on a few of them for ages, with no way to progress without looking up the solution. However, that's an inherent problem that I feel many point-and-clicks have, which is that not everything you do immediately translates into a plan for how to proceed. You may notice something or pick something up, but not be able to use that information at all for quite some time, and that makes it more difficult to see the intended solution. The ability to take hints would have been handy here. I have to give Daedalic credit for the variety of puzzles on offer though. Some are in the form of combine object X with object Y, or figure out how to convince this person through dialogue. Others are mini-games with varying degrees of difficulty. I will also say the puzzles may sometimes be difficult to solve, but the vast majority felt well thought out and rewarding once you beat them. This game's look and feel are almost beyond reproach to me. The game can boast an art style that I've truly never seen anywhere else, and it aligns incredibly well with the lighthearted yet gritty dialogue and humor. Exploring each of the lovingly hand-drawn screens enough to find all the pieces you need to complete your next puzzle makes you appreciate the level of detail that's been put into this game. I love the design of the animations as well. They fit the game's style perfectly. The only complaint I could possibly level at the game in this respect is that it might be difficult to make out all the objects you can interact with, but even that problem quickly evaporates once you hit spacebar. Add to that a perfectly tailored soundtrack, and you cannot deny that the artistic implementation is pretty awesome. The first Deponia came out in 2012, and if nothing else, it's a testament to that game's creative direction that the style is still impressive in 2016. The voice acting in both English and German is very well done, and used to great comedic effect. German, for instance, has some pretty strange dialects that are cleverly used to make the dialogue even more hilarious.
Mit ihm kam die Dürre und nun führen wir Krieg, das verlorene Paradies unserer Vorväter zurückzuerobern.
On the other hand, in the English version, the Elysians have a British accent to underline that they're supposed to be more sophisticated. I feel like there were instances where the German voice actors slightly outdid the English ones, like Lottie/Lotto's voice cracks.
Oh, I meant, of course, my deepest respect, ma'am.
Toodaloo! Ich meine natürlich, küss die Hand, Frau. Toodaloo!
It's really personal preference. The price tag of $30 might scare off some, but I think it's justified considering Deponia Doomsday has roughly 20 hours of content, which is considerably more than most adventure games. Seen in the context of the entire series, I'd say this game is arguably the most entertaining of them all. It's certainly the most mind-bending. But that is also where the game's fundamental drawback lies. It heavily counts on you having played the previous Deponia titles to understand what's going on, and to give context to the environments and the characters you interact with. It's impossible to see this game in a vacuum because of the extent to which it builds on the previous ones. Luckily, there's a demo for the first Deponia in case you haven't played them, which ought to give you a pretty good impression of whether it's your kind of game or not. So if you're entirely new to the series, I suggest you check that out. If not, this is a pretty safe buy. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you in the next one.